the meeting, Mayor Adams.
Okay, thank you. We will convene this special study session of the Monrovia City Council this Tuesday, December 15th at 7 p.m. And I will call on our city clerk to call the roll.
Council members Crutchington,
Here.
Shevlin,
Here.
Spicer,
Here.
Mayor Adams,
Here,
and Mayor Pro Tem Blackburn is excused.
thank you so much. Do we have any public input on this item?
No, sir, we did not receive any.
Okay, then we're going to go into a discussion of the review of our pavement management program. And my understanding is that Sean Sullivan is our presenter this evening. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Adams and members of the council. Appreciate this opportunity to spend a little time with you all this evening to review our pavement management program and proposed plans going forward. Obviously, an appropriate place to start with that would be to give a brief update of the ongoing Monrovia renewal work that's nearing completion. We are in the northeast section. This is the final section of our 5-year project. We are very close to the end. We're getting very excited. If you see the map here on the graphic, we have phases 1 and 2, which are the yellow and the red on the lower portion of the map. All work but for the final striping is completed in those sections, and actually I was just out this afternoon taking a look. Striping has been going down, so we are pretty much done with all of the work in that area. The remaining work in phases 3 and 4, which are the green and blue to the top, there's some outstanding concrete work that's currently taking place. Per the schedule, that'll all be poured back and buttoned up next week, just in time for the Christmas holiday. As we get into the next year, the street paving work will be completed by January the 15th. There's about 4 days left of paving work in that area. The two remaining items that will finalize that project will be the slurry seal and the striping work. And slurry seal is one of those things that is very weather dependent. So as we get into January, we'll be monitoring the weather to get that work scheduled accordingly. Typically, we need conditions where the ambient temperature is about 55 degrees and rising, and where there's no weather in the forecast for about 72 hours upon putting that down. So at this point, our plan that's got a placeholder in the schedule for the middle of January. We'll continue to watch the weather and get that executed accordingly. As such, that represents the remaining work in the northeast section, and hence the overall Monrovia renewal project. So we should anticipate substantial completion in January, and dependent upon the final weather conditions and allowing that slurry seal and striping to get down, we should be looking at a completion there January, February, hopefully, but we'll continue to keep folks updated as we refine that schedule a little further based on conditions going into the year. In terms of overall Monrovia renewal update for this evening's purposes, that was the gist of what I was going to provide for the council's overview. Our intent is when we come back for a notice of completion on this project that we bring a more kind of comprehensive overview, review, revisit of the overall Monrovia renewal initiative that we've spent the last 5 years working on. If there's any questions on renewal, I'd be glad to take those now. Otherwise, we'll jump into the pavement management portion of the presentation.
Are we going to, I know there was issues on Mountain Avenue. Is that all worked in here somewhere?
As we spoke when we came back to the council to award the contract with Excel Paving, that's certainly something that we have contemplated and considered, and it's not within that scope of work. I believe that the proposed was to see where we finish renewal here with this budget, get a plan in place for what we have remaining there, and if the budget's available and appropriate and it's the council's pleasure, we can certainly go forward with that work at that time, or we can push it into the ongoing pavement management program here that we're laying out before you.
Well, I thought there was some issues. I thought the contractor was on the hook for some of that work. I thought it was because it wasn't up to snuff.
The work that was not up to snuff, this work was taking place as far back in the initial phase of the project, the southwest and southeast. And so when the work was done at that time by a subcontractor of Sully Miller, the issues at hand were kind of as we're seeing them now. And so ultimately at the time, we did not pay for that work. We, the city, did not pay for that work that took place on Mountain Avenue at the time. So at the point when we didn't pay for that work, the requirement of the contractor to fix it at that point was alleviated, knowing that as we completed Monrovia renewal, as there was additional truck traffic, additional construction activity in that vicinity, the street would continue to take a beating to the point where we figured if we were going to do additional and extensive work to it, that the appropriate time would be near the end or at the conclusion of Monrovia renewal.
Okay, and then I assume then that we'll get a report as to the condition of that stretch of street then and the need for repairing it.
That is correct.
Probably part of the management program.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So just to provide a kind of brief background as it pertains to the city's overall street network, the city has about 90.5 centerline miles of paved roadway. So what that means is each street, regardless of if it's 2 or 3 or 4 lanes wide, the total centerline miles is about 90.5. That means there's just under 17 million square feet of roadway. If we take that total value of roadway and apply the most recent unit cost for a reconstruction of street sections, that gives the asset a total replacement or reconstruction value of about $140 million. Not speaking in exacts, but I have to think that at that value is one of the city's most valuable and most expensive assets. As such, we believe that an asset like pavement with the value as such should be managed appropriately through a pavement management program. A pavement management program would include a pavement condition index survey, an overview of our general pavement conditions, and recommendations for capital improvements and maintenance to preserve or improve our pavement going forward. In conducting a pavement condition index, folks will walk the streets and assess sections of pavements for approximately 20 different types of distresses. I don't understate it when I say folks list the part of the work that they do to prepare these surveys. As you see here on these photos attached, whether it's alligator cracking, blocking, block cracking, bumps, sags, and patching, these were some of the most common conditions that we found our streets to be in here in Monrovia prior to the work taking place by Monrovia Renewal. In addition to these 4 that are highlighted here, there's about 16 other types of pavement stresses that they look for and analyze the condition of the pavement on. At the completion of a pavement condition index survey, every roadway section within the city, and not just every street, but the street sections are actually broken into smaller roadway sections themselves of approximately 3 or 4 blocks. We have over 500 pavement sections within the city. They're rated on a scale of 0 to 100, much like you would get on a school grade, with 100 being brand new or very good, and anything being 40 or below being in the very poor or failed section. Just some background on pavement condition index here historically in Monrovia. In 2014, the citywide PCI was 57.1, placing us as fair. In 2018, the most recent number I was able to find for LA County as a whole, the average reported PCI from the cities across the county as well as the county itself was a 67, meaning the overall pavement condition index across the county was a 67. In 2020, I'm happy to report that our pavement condition index across the city was 83.7, meaning it was good or on the cusp of very good, where the threshold for such is 85. This information was provided through a survey and report that was conducted by Bucknam Infrastructure Group. A contract was awarded to them in September of 2019, and between December of 2019 and February of 2020, they completed a pavement condition index survey of all of the streets throughout the city and submitted a final report to us here at the city back in March. It's worth noting that this survey recognizes the improvement work completed for all sections of Monrovia Renewal through the north section. The survey was completed prior to the work taking place in the northeast, so the condition of the streets that are in the northeast section are reflected in their previous to Monrovia Renewal existing condition. So that's worth pointing out, is that the pavement condition index had improved to a point where we were at 83.7, not counting the work that would take place in the northeast section. This survey work will be done here again at the completion of the northeast section to update our overall pavement condition, to really give us a scorecard of where we stand as a whole throughout the completion of our Monrovia Renewal Initiative. And the reason that this was done prior to the work being completed all the way to really give us a scorecard of the work that had taken place and to allow us to have some preliminary discussions and planning and review as we look at kind of what pavement condition means going forward here for the city.
Sean,
Yes.
it's Becky. I am assuming on that report that we get at the end of renewal that it will also have a breakdown of the actual streets, so you can see which ones that may still have some lower scores. We'll be able to see where we're lacking.
That is correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And so really in talking about PCI, I wanted to provide a little more context of what it actually means. So a new or recently repaved roadway will have a PCI rating of 100. Generally speaking, again, pavement is a dynamic thing. It's not a living, breathing thing, but certainly it requires a little maintenance. It takes a little beating, if you will. In generally speaking, pavement will degrade at about 3 points per year on this scale. Some areas it's 2, some areas it's as high as 5 or 6, and this is really predicated upon the amount of traffic it sees, environmental conditions, weather, weather being really one of the worst things for pavement. But generally speaking, for purposes of figuring, we'll look at a degradation of approximately 3 points per year. What that means is if we start with a street at 100, after about 5 years, the pavement will fall into a good category. Between 8 or 9 years, the pavement will begin to rate as fair. And between 13 and 15 years, the pavement would begin to fall back into a category of poor. But just as much as pavement will naturally degrade based upon traffic, weather, et cetera, there's also pavement management and maintenance activities that we can utilize to increase the pavement condition index.
But- Okay, that's all right. I'm seeing it now. I was gonna ask about the slurry fill and grinding. over there.
So generally speaking, what we've done through Monrovia Renewal and what the proposed pavement management program contemplates are 3 general treatments to improve or maintain the streets. Starting with a slurry seal or a microsurfacing, and this adds a new aggregate and asphalt emulsion to the existing asphalt surface and generally creates a new wearing surface. In terms of PCI, this will add 10 to 13 points to an existing street, and typically they have a lifespan of 4 to 5 years. Grind and overlay, that's a process where we come in and actually remove the upper 2 inches of an asphalt pavement section and replace it with a brand new 2-inch pavement section. As stated previously, that'll restore the pavement condition index to 100, and generally that surface will have a lifespan of 8 to 12 years. Reconstruction, which we did quite a bit of here during Monrovia Renewal, again restores the street to a PCI score of 100, but this has a little more extensive and invasive work that takes place where the pavement section's removed entirely, as well as some of the subgrade. That's all recompacted, and new asphalt is placed in a 4-inch section on top of that particular part of the street. This chart lays it out a little more clearly in terms of when these treatments would take place and how they impact the PCI and most importantly the unit costs associated with. So slurry and microsurfacing, again, because they're more of a maintenance treatment, they would be done prior to a street reaching a 60 PCI. Generally, you allow a street to fall into an 85 or below before you pursue these maintenance activities. And those treatments run approximately 78 cents a square foot is the figure we took away from our most recent Monrovia Renewal work. Grind and overlay is generally done on a street that's under a condition index of 20 to 60, and kind of appropriately so, the unit costs associated with this type of work is about $2.44, or just under 4 times the cost of a slurry or maintenance treatment. Reconstruction then would be utilized on a street that's somewhere between 0 to 20, where there's really no pavement left to grind off or anything to get a meaningful surface put back onto it. And appropriately so, that unit cost is approximately $8.50 a square foot. It's worth noting that these costs are derived from some of the most recent costs we received during our Monrovia Renewal Initiative, but they're always subject to changing market conditions, changing issues with the economy, and these are just our general budgeting purpose figures that if we were to pursue a more in-depth project, there would be some additional costs that would need to be added to a budget appropriately, including general overhead and other things such as street striping.
Sean, before you go
Yes.
on, since you're talking about costs, how much was I know you said we didn't pay for it, but what was the cost of the mountain project that we didn't pay for?
Off the top of my head, and Mountain, what was done there was a chip or a cape seal, and what you'll notice is that is a treatment that is not on our list going forward. It's
Right.
something that we experimented with, and there was a few issues with that, one of which you place a layer of chip or gravel down on the roadway prior to placing the microsurfacing on top of it. And some of the concerns we ran into with that here is that you're supposed to let it settle for a couple of weeks before you pave it to fill in the cracks. And so during that period, we got a few claims for tires, windshields, and really it didn't resonate well with the public in terms of having to deal with a gravel road like that for a while. In addition, the way it was done by the contractor, it resulted in some shoving and some rutting. And so really what they did to remedy it was come out and grind off that area there and put down a slurry or a microsurfacing treatment without the rock seal under it. For the area of work that took place and the kind of realm of which it did there on Mountain, I would estimate that the cost of that work, had we paid for it, would have been somewhere in the $50,000 to $60,000 range.
Thank you.
I have a question, Sean.
Yes, sir.
So, I know there's a lot of material out there now that you can utilize, within the asphalt in order to get, more longevity out of it?
Mhm.
I know it's expensive, but have we looked into that,
There's certainly some options out there, and as you'll recall, when we came back to the council back in the winter or spring of this year to launch the Northeast project, one of the things we contemplated and pushed forward with was using an asphalt that was fortified with some fiber mesh in lieu of doing the street reconstruction that we'd done previously. And that
Yeah.
seems to be working really fairly well for the pavement that's gone down so far. It looks nice. We feel generally pretty good about it. So certainly that's something that we would be definitely interested in bringing forward to the council's consideration as we get a general understanding of how we want to proceed with pavement management in terms of cost, timeline, approach, and how we want to implement it. We'll refine some of these sections and some of these projects a little more, and certainly some modeling and some analysis could be brought forward for some of those options as we look at what streets still need to be paved.
Yeah, because seem like in the long run, you would be saving money.
I think that's certainly something to consider, especially as we now have the pavement a little more under control than we did when we started the Monrovia Renewal Initiative, where we're doing more refined and focused maintenance efforts rather than looking at the city as a whole. I think there's certainly some opportunities that could be considered there.
Yeah, you guys been doing a good job, Sean.
Well, thank you.
Good job.
Just to touch base again on Monrovia Renewal, as I mentioned previously, in 2014, the citywide PCI was 57.1, and that really was one of the key drivers behind Monrovia Renewal. When the project was launched, I think the initial goal was to really increase the citywide PCI to a 70. So when we took forward the plans to initiate Monrovia Renewal, the focus was on all streets that had a PCI of 70 or below. When we looked at the pavement condition index from 2014, that represented about 65% of all streets within the city. Based on the Monrovia Renewal work completed to date, again, prior to the Northeast section, we've seen a PCI increase of nearly 47% across the citywide PCI on the work done to date. It's worth noting that when the Northeast section is completed, the pavement work that will have taken place through Monrovia Renewal is right under 11 million square feet, and that includes reconstruction, grind and overlay, slurry seal, and microsurfacing activities. When we look at maintenance efforts going forward, really the key reason we were here tonight, based off of the preliminary report we received in March, we took some quantities of pavement sections that had PCIs ranging between 60 to 85 and 20 to 60. Again, those are areas where you would be looking at either a microsurfacing and slurry seal or a grind and overlay. It's worth noting that based upon the report we received in March, we did not have any streets below a 20. So fortunately, we were able to capture that through Monrovia Renewal. There's no streets that are out there in need of reconstruction. We took the quantities of asphalt that were highlighted in those reports of being in those sections. We've deducted the amount of work that's being completed in the Northeast section to get us a quantity of about 5 million square feet of pavement that remains in that maintenance range between 20 to 85. This represents about 30% of the roadway throughout the city, which correlates with what we believed would be the untouched and remaining work to take place at the completion of Monrovia Renewal. So really our focus for the next 5 years, we figure, is about addressing these 5 million square feet of outstanding pavement work that represents kind of that next cycle of deferred maintenance while everything else has been brought back up to a higher level of pavement condition index. If we look at those quantities and kind of the appropriate treatments that would be required for that work there, we have just over 4.3 million square feet of slurry seal or microsurfacing and about 725,000 square feet of grind or overlay. Utilizing those unit costs that we put together based off of our Monrovia Renewal activities, the total for that work based on those unit prices is just over $5 million. So if we were to deduce that to say a 5-year annual average for implementation of a pavement management program, we'd be looking at a base unit cost of just over $1 million a year. As I mentioned previously, these costs are subject to fluctuation. Certainly there would have to be some additional overhead or soft costs added to figures like these, but for the purpose of budgeting and discussion, this is, we figured, the cleanest way to present it. And based off of our feedback from the consultant who completed the pavement condition report for us, as well as what we've been able to model and monitor through the information we have, we think that an activity program like this would certainly preserve the existing PCI, if not continue to improve it at this point. So really looking at pavement maintenance going forward, again, our final pavement and roadway work as part of the renewal initiative will be completed in early 2021. Upon completion of that work, we will have the PCI index survey completed and updated to capture that final work. We would have a revised number as well as some revised figures for the outstanding work yet to be completed. Utilizing that final updated information, staff could then present a more formal pavement management program or approach for the council's consideration that would be based upon the feedback or the desire of the council in terms of budget, in terms of prosecution of work, in terms of the phasing, the cycling, how much we wanted to do, how far we wanted to spread it out. That information can be reviewed and modeled, but we think that the information presented here this evening is really a good starting spot to protect and preserve the investment that was made by this community is based on Monrovia renewal. In terms of just ongoing pavement management efforts, the city files a triannual pavement management certification with Metro. This is a contingent component of receiving the local return funds that we utilize for a lot of these pavement and roadway maintenance activities. And it's recommended that this survey report that will be updated again at the completion of renewal get a 5-year update to make sure we're staying on pace and doing the work that we need to do to preserve and protect our investment. That concludes my overview this evening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
John,
Yes.
it's Becky, on those pavement management analysis or inspections or whatever you call them, do they ever include paved parking lots?
As part of the scope of work that we requested, we did not include the parking lots. This is just for the streets, but that's certainly something that we could look at and come up with some figures on.
Right. I just like to, I don't know about my fellow council members, but if we're going to do a pavement management plan, I think we ought to include our city-owned parking lots as a part of that evaluation as well.
Certainly.
Sean, on that 720,000 square feet, that is the worst of what we will have left.
Yes.
And my understanding is when we got to the end of Monrovia renewal, everything was supposed to have been at least 70%. And it looks like this falls below that. How long will it take to complete that in your 5-year plan? Does it bump up into the first year or two? When does that happen?
You know, certainly it's something that we can look at, and I think our general approach is, you know, let's take care of the important stuff and let's get everything back up to snuff. Certainly the volume of work that's outlined there is not inconsistent with some of the paving quantities that have taken place in some of these Monrovia renewal projects to date. So the implementation of that work could be done in one cycle, but really it comes back down to the general approach of how we want to lay that out, the available resources at the time. And certainly it's worth noting that those quantities that remain there are some of the streets that were maybe just ahead of the curve when we initiated renewal that weren't in that section to be done that have degraded since then. So it's certainly worth looking at those kind of as a priority, but also balancing the need to ensure we're staying ahead of our slurry work. As we pointed out on that previous slide, you know, the cost variances between, say, slurry and grind and overlay work are such that we want to make sure we're keeping this slurry on the streets that's going down first, since that will represent our biggest bang for our buck. But, you know, that's certainly all something that we can discuss as we lay out a plan going forward.
I've got a couple of questions, Sean. A little before your time, we moved here about 40 years ago. And I can remember when we first moved here, the city had a regular slurry program. It was something that I got used to. And then it stopped and we started successively falling into more and more disrepair. My expectation on renewal was a couple of things. Number one, we'd get on a program where we would keep maintaining the things that we fixed rather than build another $53 million hole that we get to fall into whenever. So that was my expectations. I believe I remember a time when Monrovia was doing that regularly. I don't know what happened to change that, but I think Tom talks a lot about how we don't take good care of our stuff. And I think what we want to do is start taking good care of our stuff. And this is certainly part of it. The other part of this has to do with my 12 years as the Commissioner for Community Services. Part of our stuff that we haven't talked about yet is how we let our playgrounds, like Julian Fisher Park, the playground equipment at the library, we don't seem to be able to predict that at some point, in addition to maintenance, we're gonna have to replace it. We don't budget for it. It just happens. We take down the equipment and we're all scurrying around like crazy writing grants. From the standpoint of a private business owner, I'm just not okay with running a business that way. I want us to, the way Tom says, I want us, period, to be planning for and taking care of our stuff. I just don't see this as a luxury. I see it as a responsibility of taking good care of our city. And I'm wondering when this sort of outlook is going to spill over into some of the other real estate, including playground equipment that we own.
In terms of the slurry, again, I think that's absolutely why we're here. I think based on the condition that we found the streets in when renewal started, we needed much more than slurry. But I think our hope as public works professionals and seeing the desire of the council to protect and preserve what we have is to bring forth a meaningful, responsible and appropriate slurry program to continue to invest in and improve our streets. And just like Mr. Adams mentioned, is kind of attacking the grind and overlay as well, and finding that balance to continue to push the streets forward. But ultimately our goal is to get those all to a position where slurry is just routine and relied upon by the residents, and we're doing it, and we're extending the useful life of these streets as far as we can. In terms of the other assets that you mentioned, absolutely, that's something that has been in discussion amongst Dylan and myself, and I see it not only in playgrounds and in parks, but really in all of the physical infrastructure that we support and maintain across the city. And you're absolutely right. I think Monrovia Renewal was a terrific one-time opportunity to correct some of this and make some of this right, but it's certainly our obligation to the community to continue to find ways to maintain, catalog, and really invest in and protect these assets and infrastructure going forward. So
Like, for instance, the service for the basketball courts at Julian Fisher, that there, I know there is maintenance that is required of that kind of court, and I expect we're going to be hearing about maintenance programs for that kind of pavement as well.
Well, Gloria, you're right, because if you have a preventive maintenance program, all of that falls under a preventive maintenance program. As long as you have a good preventive maintenance program, you go out, you inspect the stuff at certain times, and that should give you an idea on the wear and tear of the equipment going down, whether it's the playground equipment, streets, whatever. A good preventive maintenance program would cover it all.
And it's not a luxury.
Right.
It's a necessity.
That's right.
Sean, if these two items on your screen cost us $1 million a year, what is our average street budget per year?
I don't have that figure offhand, and to use the word that Mrs. Crudgington used, luxury. Unfortunately, for the last 5 years, we've had the luxury of having, the most robust capital improvement budget that I've ever seen. So as we come back down to what the new normal and the reality going forward would look like, certainly it's something that I'll be working with Dylan and with our admin services team to carve out what that appropriate budget would be going forward. And really, I think the impetus behind this discussion this evening was the discussion or possible consideration of the use of Measure K funds to ensure that initiative like this would be properly funded to the council's desire to ensure that we're doing the appropriate levels of work.
Okay. Any other questions for Sean?
Go for it.
Yeah, I think, number one, we got another meeting starting 2 minutes ago, so we need to move on. But Sean, appreciate the update. It's good information to have. I think we all want the same thing. We all want to know that you can do what we're looking at in front of us over the next 5 years without having to go back to the well again.
What I think I'll do then is, on that regard, I'll work with Dylan. We'll get this updated just as soon as we can once the final paving work in the northeast section's dry, once we have those numbers a little more, worked through, I'll keep working with Dylan, and we'll certainly get an update back to you at some point once that work is completed.
All righty. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good report. Okay, we will close this study session, and I'll check with the city clerk and see if it's okay to start our regularly scheduled meeting.
Yes, Mayor Adams, I'm admitting our pastor for this evening, so he should be all set in a moment. And I think KGEM will keep rolling, so I think we're good to go if you want to convene
Okay.
the regular.
Mr. Spicer, if you would, because the agenda calls for Mr. Blackburn to do the pledge, would you be willing to take that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, then we will call to order the regular scheduled meeting of the Monrovia City Council this Tuesday, December 15th, the last meeting of 2020. And I think we'll all be very pleased to see 2020 go away. I'm going to, as a reminder to everyone, I'm going to put my mask on for a moment to remind everyone that in spite of the fact that the vaccine is rolling out, it didn't roll into Monrovia. So let's make sure we keep our masks on, maintain our social distancing, and do what we can to try to make sure that we keep each other healthy. This evening, our invocation will be given by Pastor Brandon Spencer. Pastor Spencer, are you with us?
I am here.
There you are. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming down to join us, and we look forward to your good words.
Thanks for having me. Let's pray together. God, we thank you for this gathering and the opportunity that we have to come together to plan and to dialogue and discuss all the things, God, that are on the agenda for tonight. We do thank you also for these leaders and just for how they serve us and just for how they lead during this season. And God, our hearts also turn to our community and all of those who are just going through a hard time right now. Our hearts and our minds are with them as many families struggle during the season. And God, we just ask for lots of compassion, lots of love, and a spirit of generosity during the season, that we will remind each other of what it means to have hope and what it means to continue to show up for one another. And I pray for these things tonight. Amen.
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 Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag.
Hold on, Larry. Let me get the flag up.
Okay, soldier, you should have been ready. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Why do I always do that?
All right, Larry Spicer, thank you for that. Pastor Spencer, thank you for joining us this evening. We appreciate your kind words. And from the city of Monrovia to your household, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We wish you the best. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I'll now ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Yes, council members Crutchington,
Here.
Shevlin,
Here.
Spicer,
Here,
Mayor Adams,
Here.
and Mayor Pro Tem Blackburn, sorry, is excused.
All righty. Thank you so much. Mr. Steele, do we have a report of closed session?
We do, Mr. Adams. Thank you. The council met in closed session earlier this evening regarding the one item on the posted agenda. 4 members of the council were present. Mr. Blackburn was an excused absence, and the council took a report from staff and took no reportable action.
All righty. Thank you, sir. And did you want to zoom in on that sweater of yours? Because I know we've got an item coming up here pretty soon. And I think that sweater, more than anything I've seen this evening, kind of defines what tonight is all about.
Well, nothing says Merry Christmas like a hatted shark, I think.
Like an attorney with a Christmas shark sweater.
Yes. Well, attorney, shark, I mean, things kind of go hand in hand. Okay, we will now move on to our presentations in PR1, and this is going to be a tough one to top for a long time. Craig Jimenez will give us a report on recognizing Sheila Spicer Batiste for over 38 years of service to the community of Monrovia. I tell you, whoever gets that job, I would hate to have to follow in Sheila's footsteps. She's done such an amazing job, but Craig, we'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. And, you know, there are so many emotions right now. And, Sheila has been with the city for 38 years. She started here in 1982. She was probably about 1. And, I look back at pictures of her, and I don't think, honestly, she hasn't changed. Her hair's changed, and that's about it. But, Sheila is currently our neighborhood and business services manager. She is just, not only is she a phenomenal public servant, I mean, she has dedicated her life to making Monrovia a better place, and she has. She's left her mark. She's, the MAP program, our code enforcement program, business license. She was our business license officer for many, many years and forged so many relationships with the business community. It's just, and I told myself I wasn't going to do this, but I'm just, not only is she just an amazing human being, but she's a terrific friend, and I look forward to, continuing our relationship in the years to come. But, Sheila is just, she's one of a kind, absolutely, and we're going to miss her greatly, but I know she's got lots of plans for the future. So, that's all I've got.
Well, Sheila, if you're listening,
She's here.
she's here.
Yes.
Do we get to see? Or is
She's,
she just?
She's on the screen.
She's on the
she's
screen
on the
unless,
screen.
are you,
Why can't-
Put it on gallery view, Tom. If you put it on gallery view, you'll see her.
It is on gallery view, but
Hmm.
what's going on here?
too many people?
Try stadium view.
Which one, Larry?
Stadium. I got you on that one, Tom.
Tom, we're gonna do a switcheroo on the cameras and the seats and get Sheila on for
Oh,
you.
okay.
Told you technology was not our friend today.
Yeah. Oh, there she is. Hey, Sheila.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is, I guess from your perspective, it's kind of a nice Christmas gift, but for the city's perspective, I think a lot of us feel like we're kind of getting shortchanged on this deal.
I'm not one, and many of you know that, I'm not one for the spotlight at all. But I do, to you, Mayor Adams, and council members, I do humbly thank you for this recognition. I do. I've really been blessed to have been able to serve this community and this organization for the last 38 plus years, and just be a small part of the tremendous growth of this community into this, from whence we came to this this unique and one of a kind community that we all enjoy today. I've formed so many lasting and lifelong relationships and friendships with co-workers and community members and with you city leaders, and I thank you all for your support and the friendships and relationships throughout the years. But I'm retiring, but just like any other, we're all a big family, and like any other family member, you can't get rid of me that quickly or that easily. I'll be around and always be a part of this community. It's always in my heart. So anytime you need anything, just let me know, and I'll always be a part of this organization.
Larry.
Sheila, it has been a blast working with you. I was going to sing the song by Gladys Knight. Neither one of us wants to be the first to say goodbye.
Sing it.
But I didn't want to mess up the council meeting. But
Okay, you've done it before. Go ahead.
But you have really made a difference here in the city from the time that you started up until now. The community services, not the community services, but the neighborhood services department has really, really changed over the years. You guys are more, you've made it where they're more engaged with the community, plus adding along the community policing. It has made a big difference, in the city. The different map areas, map area 1 through 4 has completely changed. I mean, those areas used to be blighted, blighted areas, and the neighborhoods are nice. The people are taking care of the neighborhoods. It's just, hey, you have been a jewel. And I think I'll stop there.
It's been great working with you too. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Becky, you look like you're about ready to cry, so I think I better shift over to you. I mean, Sheila's over there going, woohoo, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
It's with mixed feelings.
I've had many a long conversation with Sheila, and as others have said, the difference is, Sheila, you're just beautiful inside and out. You're a wonderful person. You have done such a fantastic job, and your level of customer service, no pressure on the next person, but it's really going
pressure on the next person.
That's right.
The level of customer service that you provide, and you play the part of mediator and I mean everything, communicator, and you just are able to get things done where others can't. And you're so dependable in being able to contact you and get the job done. I mean, you're just always Johnny on the spot, and I'm truly, truly going to miss you, and the city's going to miss you. But you may be retiring, but we're going to make sure that we see you. We'll have to come and camp out on your doorstep or something.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, a map wouldn't be the same without you. You've been a great mentor to so many people, but I just, you're one of a kind, and I love you, and
Love you too. Thank you, Becky.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Gloria.
Well, Sheila, you have thrown yourself into each challenge with your heart and your soul. This is no commentary on your actual shoe size, but lady, you got really big shoes to fill. I can't imagine one person filling them. Thank you so much for everything you have given to this city. I just can't imagine how we're going to fill your role without you in it.
Thank you, Gloria. And thank you all for all the kind words. And like I said, I'll always be around, but you're all in great hands. You got some great staff here. And the person who's taking my place, he's a good person. And I told him of all these stories, so I think he's up for the task.
What stories? What stories, Sheila? What you talking about?
Can't talk about them
It's
all.
the one about you, Larry. You know she's talking about you.
What you talking about, Willis?
Sheila, we wish we could be there in person to say thank you. But we will all get to see you at one point or another. But we do thank you for everything. We wish you the best of holidays. Merry Christmas to you. And thank you for the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And a world without hugs really stinks.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Okay, we'll now move on to PR2 Old Town and Home Decorating Contest Awards. Tina Cherry, our Community Services Director, will give us that report. And it's funny, when I first looked at it, I was thinking of Larry and I thought it said Old Town Road Decorating.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. And Larry, we won't ask you to sing that, but
No problem.
all right. Okay, Tina, it's all yours.
Well, good evening, Mr. Adams, members of the council, and thank you for your time tonight. So it's my honor to recognize all of our Old Town businesses who participated in our decorating contest, as well as all the homes and the families that spent some time decorating. As you know, on an annual basis, we usually have a council chamber filled with families excited and looking forward to be recognized and celebrate their accomplishments with all of you. And the COVID Grinch took that away from us too, but they are all watching at home and really excited to be recognized tonight. One of the things I can say is we've never had so many different families participate in our program. We had 49 families in our home decorating contest and 7 businesses participate in the Old Town. And those are just the ones that submitted applications. I think as you drive around town, you'll see yourself that there's hundreds and hundreds of families who spent time, to really make the holidays special this year for Monrovia. So I'm excited to share all this with you tonight. Try this. There we go. Okay, so as I mentioned, we had 7 businesses in Old Town who participated. Civil Tech Engineering, Douglas Edelman Real Estate, Dream Decor, House of Windsor, Merengue Bakery and Cafe, Monrovia Floral, and St. Clair Bridal Suite. Next one. There we go. We're just going to run through these real quick. So this is House of Windsor. They received the best overall display. And St. Clair Bridal had beautiful bridal display, but they were most creative. And Douglas Edelman Real Estate won the best holiday display. And Monrovia Floral won our Judges Award. And Civil Tech won the most spectacular. And unfortunately, their display you can't see from the street. They are a second story business off of Lime, but it was such a beautiful display, we wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to see it. And now we'll go on to our home decorating contest. As I mentioned, we had 49 homes who submitted applications, but there's lots and lots of homes out there who have done a terrific job decorating. We just want to thank all of Monrovia for all their participation, and we'll run through all of those winners for you now. So our best still display was the residence on 2102 South Myrtle Avenue. Our best outdoor display was on 633 King Street. This one's kind of unique. It has a magic twist. You'll see the little holiday elves are doing all different types of magic tricks on the lawn. The most effective use of lighting award went to the residents at 276 North Primrose Avenue. The best neighborhood effort actually this year went to Valmont Place and Valmont Drive. Feels like Rochelle and Valmont, they keep trading the award back and forth. So we have one image here of one of the homes that's during the day and one at night, but the entire community is decorated beautifully. The Santa Workshops Award went to the family at 333 Norumbega Drive. Our Holiday Spirit Award went to 1510 Pilgrim Way. And our Children's Choice Award went to 826 Ocean View. You can see all their inflatables. And our Judges Award went to 209 South Sunset Avenue. So that concludes all of our winners. Here is a map that is now available on the city's website and through our social media channels. It lists all of the participating families and businesses, and then we've highlighted those who were the winning entries. We just really want to thank all of the Monrovia family businesses for participating and making our holidays special. like to thank the MOTAB Board for Judging and our Community Services Commission Board for Judging as well. Tough job they had ahead of them. We did get out today to let all of the winning families and businesses know that they were successful in their accomplishments, and we gave them signs. So all the winning residents do have signs now on their lawn. So with that, that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Tina?
Just thank you for keeping the spirit alive and continuing on with the contest, even though we couldn't do it in person.
It's our pleasure.
Yay!
Thank you, Kate.
The spirit's
And,
alive and well in Monrovia.
That's
Yeah,
right.
you know, just when you thought the Grinch was going to take it all away, we've got even more lovely decorations we can drive around and take a peek at night. So hopefully everyone will take advantage of that. And I still do think we need to come up with a Southern California Edison Award for whoever uses the most energy. But pretty impressive. Thanks to everyone that participated. Thanks to everyone that put in for an award, and congratulations to the ones who won awards. I know the community always appreciates everything that we get to drive around and take a peek at. So Tina, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Have a good night.
Thank you, Tina.
Okay, we'll now move on to PR3 is our Pasadena Humane Society Pet of the Month. Lauren Vasquez, our Assistant City Manager, will be here to introduce dog or a cat?
We are introducing a dog, so I'm going to share
okay.
my screen, and Michelle Holbrook from the Pasadena Humane Society sent us a little video in hopes to bring Kona home to Monrovia. So here we go. One second, let me just fix the volume on this. One more time, here we go.
Hey Monrovia, it's Michelle here at Pasadena Humane, and I bet you're wondering what is better than going to Hawaii for Christmas. I'll tell you, it's taking Kona home with you instead of traveling on an airplane. So Kona is an 11-month-old boy. You can see he's kind of active. But he was returned to us from his family. They just couldn't take care of him any longer. And he does like to go jogging. Look at Kona, say hi to everybody. He's a very active boy, likes to go jogging up to 90 minutes, so he'd be perfect for a Monrovia family that likes to travel up the falls. And you can check him out and all of his friends at www.pasadenahumane.org. Happy holidays to everyone.
Okay, there's a great opportunity for someone to have a new family member for the holidays. So if you're looking to adopt a dog, get a hold of the Pasadena Humane Society and ask for Kona. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, now for the moment that we've waited for, and it was not originally put on the agenda, it's more of a surprise, but it's our annual Ugly Sweater Contest. And from what I can see right now, we may have 4 contestants, I think. See, Gloria, I can definitely see that you're in it. Becky, it looks like you're in it. Alice, oh yeah, Alice is in it. We know Craig's in it. Craig's always in it. And then Larry, I don't consider that to be ugly. Were you planning on entering?
I'm not in it to win it, okay?
Okay. Okay, so
don't
we've
forget
got,
Lauren. Don't forget Lauren. Lauren's in
I
it.
don't see Lauren. Where is Lauren?
I think that was.
Oh, what's that say? Don't do what?
Don't believe in.
Don't stop believing.
Don't stop believing.
Don't stop believing.
Don't stop believing. So we've got Gloria, Becky, Alice, Lauren, and the only male this evening is Craig Steele.
Let me show you what's up for tonight.
Is that
Oh,
the
trophy.
is that the award? Santa with no head?
It's an ugly sweater.
Oh, I thought it was a headless Santa Claus.
Donated by
Okay,
Tina
so-
Cherry, just to make sure we solidified the winner this year.
So normally what we do is we have the contestants parade around in the front of the council chambers, and we base it on applause. So I guess what we need to do is have each contestant stand one at a time. So Gloria, why don't we start with you? I'm listening for applause. Okay. Becky Shevlin, stand and be recognized.
It's a, and you've got
No,
it.
you do not need to show us your leggings.
Well, yeah, well, that's part of the outfit and the
Oh,
socks.
okay.
See, and there's the socks.
Well, okay then, go ahead.
Well, you saw that.
I'm listening.
Whoa. Gonna fall over.
Okay, I heard a few applause. Master Municipal Clerk Alice Atkins. I'm listening. Okay, Craig the Shark Steele.
This is pretty much it, Tom, right? This is,
Sure.
And then Lauren Don't Stop Believing Vasquez.
Way. Great.
Well, this is
theme.
kind of tough. I think it's down to Alice, Lauren, and Craig. I think, based on the applause that I heard.
I think you missed the cheering and hollering that happened in here for Becky.
Oh,
I don't know why. I tried to get
Hear
the
it.
volume up enough
that-
for you to hear it.
I could hear it.
Yeah.
that might have been the hollering that was going on off mic.
The city attorney backs us on it.
Yeah, I could definitely hear it.
Okay, so then shall we run through those four again then?
Or
Okay.
maybe you could just pick one.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
you
not gonna
could-
do
you
that. Are
could pick
kidding
one.
me?
I think as the impartial person who, administers elections and such, I would definitely feel comfortable saying that Councilmember Shevlin was the clear, definite winner in this.
I agree.
You like,
Okay.
like my socks.
So here you
So
go, Becky.
I guess, Alice, the question is,
I protest.
did she become the winner after she lifted her legs up, or was it before that?
Whoa.
We'll have to go back
Stop,
and
let's-
look at the
Let's stop
tape.
right there.
Okay.
Stop right there.
Okay, Becky, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
You will
I'm
be
honored. I'm honored. And next year, I'll be sure to bring the award back next year so we can pass
Yes.
it on to the next one.
the headless Santa Claus. Okay. Congratulations and thanks to everybody that participated. Okay, is our student liaison here this evening?
Yes, I am just now admitting Sophia.
Okay, Sophia, how
I
are you?
should have let her
There
in
you are.
earlier. I
I'm
realized.
good. How are you?
Happy December.
Happy December.
And is
Sophia
that
coulda
is,
won.
Yeah, you know what?
Look at that
Stand up,
sweater.
Sophia. Stand
I
up.
have a reindeer on my shirt.
Oh, there you know.
That's cute.
Well, Becky,
that's
you're
not ugly.
lucky that Sophia wasn't here.
Well, that's not ugly. It's cute.
It's adorable.
Well, there you have it. Sophia, what's going on over at the high school?
Okay, so good evening, Mayor, members of the council. We have made it to our last week of our first semester, which is also our finals week. Talks for what next semester will look like is also in the works. Our associate student body class will be meeting with members of our school board to work out what will be best for our students, staff, and everyone involved. I'm also happy to report about some recent victories for our Wildcats.
The first is for the Digital Studies Academy. Our indie development team, Forge Interactive, won one of the top 3 awards for the Congressional App Challenge hosted by Congresswoman Judy Chu. Out of 30 plus entries from schools in Judy Chu's district, 3 are chosen to be recognized in the following categories: Best Technical, Best Presentation, and Best Overall. Forge Interactive's titled Red Dungeon, released in July of this year, was selected to receive the Best Presentation Award by a panel of engineers from JPL, and the team was recognized by Judy Chu during an award ceremony for applicants and their families. Other impressive entries focus on web/mobile app development. However, no one is doing game development like Monrovia. The second is for our Mathletes team at MHS for advancing into the Final Four of the Math Madness tournament. This is a national math competition with hundreds of schools participating, and they're one of the last 4 teams standing. The
Wow.
Wildcat team consists of team captain Charlie Heatherly, Corey Spaeth, Zachary Simkowski, Joseph Hansen, Zoran Catelli, Anthony Nava, Alan Santos, Rexley Choi, Chelsea Wong, and yours truly. And that concludes.
Oh, wait, let's have a little applause for that. Yay.
Thank you.
Well, Sophia, I got to tell you, your Zoom skills exceed all of ours, and we appreciate you being here. We appreciate your reports that you give us. Keep an eye on the high school. Let us know if there's anything that we can do to help, and we wish you and your family the best of holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays,
you.
everyone.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'll now entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
Move
So
for
moved.
approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any objection? Alice, please call the roll.
Council members Crutchington,
Yes.
Shevlin,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
and Mayor Adams.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, we'll now go to public input, and our master municipal clerk, I believe, has one piece of public input for us.
Yes, I do. Thank you. I have an email from Sari Canales of Monrovia Chamber of Commerce. She's reporting that the chamber has 6 new members for the month of November: Legal Shield, Proficient Electric, Cup of Tea, and a Bead, SW Custom Design Painting, Clay Art West, and Chick-fil-A. And in December so far, 5 new members: Double H Builders, Spanish Adventures, Finch Tree, a division of Bartlett Tree Experts, and Choice Windows Inc. and Window Max. The chamber welcomed RA House of CBD to Monrovia with a virtual ribbon cutting ceremony. Thank you, Mayor Tom, for attending via Zoom. And support local, shop Monrovia first, shop small, support restaurants with takeout orders. Happy holidays.
All right. Thank you, Alice. And Sari, thank you for your reports. I know we always look forward to discovering what the chamber's up to, and we appreciate everything you do in that regard. Okay, we'll now move on to public hearings. PH1 is a general plan amendment. And I believe our staff report will come from Teresa Santelena, Associate Planner. Teresa, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor Adams, and good evening to you, council members. So our first public hearing this evening is a review of a general plan and zoning map amendment for 8 remnant parcels on the west side of Pilgrim Way. And I think we're just getting the PowerPoint ready here. Okay, great. Here we go. So before we get into the specifics of the application, it's important to understand the background of the area a little bit. The neighborhood in question is located on the north side of Duarte Road, south of the Metro Light Rail tracks on Pilgrim Way. The properties on the west side of Pilgrim Way back up to the Santa Anita Wash, which is owned and maintained by the Los Angeles County Flood Control District. Back in the 1960s, the Flood Control District began to sell off some of their excess land that was not needed for maintenance of the wash. They divided up the excess area into remnant parcels and made them available for sale to property owners on Pilgrim Way. Over the course of several decades, most, though not all, of the properties acquired the remnant parcels to increase the size of their residential land. It's important to note, however, that though many of the property owners purchased this remnant land, the remnant land was still zoned as public, quasi-public, or we call that PQP. The PQP designation is intended for quasi-governmental offices and facilities such as utilities, and it does not allow for residential uses. Therefore, under this current PQP zoning, the remnant parcels can only be used as backyard open space, and no new structures or other residential improvements that would require a building permit can be constructed. So we're looking here at a parcel map from the Los Angeles County Assessor's Office. According to the Assessor's Office, each of the remnant parcels that was purchased by residential property has been tied to the residential lot for tax purposes. However, the city is not a party to that process, and this tie could be removed without the city's knowledge. So it's important to note that this tax tie only holds the two parcels together for tax purposes and does not create a single legal entity. For the city to approve change in the zoning designation, a more permanent tie is needed. So in November of 2019, a property owner in the neighborhood approached Planning Division staff regarding the possibility of constructing an accessory dwelling unit in his backyard. However, since the PQP zoning would not allow for residential uses, the property owner was told that the land use designation would have to be changed to residential low density to match his existing residential land use, and that his two parcels would need to be held together as one through the recordation of a covenant. When the property owner decided to pursue the zone change, staff saw an opportunity to reach out to the rest of the neighborhood to see if there were other property owners who would like to participate in the application. And through an outreach effort, we were able to identify 7 additional property owners who were interested in participating. So now these 8 neighbors are all working collaboratively together on this application. By working together, they're able to share the total cost of the application. And we can see on this map that the participating applications are outlined in black. The requirement to record a covenant is also an important consideration in this request, and it is critical to avoid any potential future problems. The remnant parcels are very substandard in size, and they're also lacking street frontage or landlocked parcels. So we can't change the residential designation on a legally created lot of record, even though it's a non-conforming lot, because this would allow that parcel to then be sold or conveyed separately from the primary residential parcel. The city would be obligated to allow development in order to provide reasonable economic use of the property as a separate entity. So the city therefore cannot initiate this general plan and zone change application on these properties until the existing lot lines, lot ties, because if the existing lot lines were removed, it would create landlocked parcels. Therefore, any of the participating property owners wishing to change the designation is required to record a covenant to hold the two parcels together as one. And this is a more permanent tie unless both the city and the property owner decide to remove that covenant in the future. The 8 applicants who are participating tonight have all recorded their covenants. So the land use change for these 8 remnant parcels requires 2 separate actions by the city. The first is a general plan amendment. This would be a map amendment to the land use element of the general plan, and this is included in resolution number 2020-77. It's also important to note that each year the city is permitted to amend the general plan only 4 times. So by bundling these 8 property owners into one application, we're saving them considerable time and money than if they were each to approach the city individually. And the second action that's required is a zoning map amendment to the Monrovia Municipal Code to change the designations from PQP to RL. This image on your screen demonstrates how the zoning map will be updated if the request is approved. And the proposed zoning amendment is passed through ordinance number 2020-13. On November 18th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on the item. We did not receive any speakers or written letters in opposition to this project. The Commission felt that this application was positive for both the neighborhood and for the city. And at the close of the public hearing, they unanimously voted to approve the general plan amendment and the zoning map amendment. So with that, staff and the Planning Commission are recommending approval of resolution number 2020-77 and ordinance number 2020-13. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Teresa?
I have a question. Then going forward, what happens to the remaining parcels if they want to then join in, if they want to have the same benefit?
They would also have to go through this same process. So they could, again, they could work collaboratively together or approach the city individually to initiate a general plan amendment and a zoning map amendment.
Okay. I'm just curious, did you hear from any of the others other than just they didn't respond, or they said, no, I'd never be interested, or?
Most did not respond. I did hear from one or two people who were not interested. But since this application has been initiated, we actually have heard from other people on the block who are interested in purchasing the remnant land that they had not previously purchased. So they've been in contact with LA County Flood Control to try and initiate that aspect.
How many of those parcels do you know off the top of your head are actually owned, the remnants, or how many aren't, I guess?
Most of them are owned. I believe it's about 6 that are not owned.
Okay, thank you.
Good report, Teresa.
Yep,
Any other
thank you.
questions for Teresa? Then this is a public hearing. I will open the public hearing and ask our city clerk if we have any public comments.
Yes, Mayor Adams, applicant, I don't know if it's, I'm sorry, Jean or Jean, Corkis is participating. Hi, go ahead.
It's Jean. I get it all the time, so no worries.
Great. It is, feel free to speak.
Oh, I actually don't have any specific comments, but I just, I said it in the previous meeting. I'll reiterate. Just wanted to thank City Hall, including Teresa, Sherry, and everybody that helped us throughout this process. I know it took a while, but it was a well-guided process, and we appreciate their effort. And thank you all for taking the
Good.
time.
John, thank you for being here this evening.
Absolutely.
Do we have any other
Mayor,
comments?
I have nobody else participating in the meeting, and we received no written comments.
Okay, on that note, I will close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make it.
I move that we adopt resolution number 2020-77 and introduce, waive further reading, and read by title only ordinance number 2020-13.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Any objection? Alice, please call the roll.
Council members Crudgington,
Yes.
Shevlin,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
and Mayor Adams.
Yes. Mr. Steele, would you please read it?
Thank you, Mr. Adams. It's ordinance number 2020-13, an ordinance of the City of Monrovia, California, adopting zone change ZA 2020-002, amending the official zoning map for the City of Monrovia set forth in section 17.04.040 of Title 17 zoning of the Monrovia Municipal Code to change the PQP public quasi-public zone designation of properties located at 649 West Wardy Road and 1435, 1439, 1505, 1613, 1629, 1725, and 1729 Pilgrim Way. APNs are 8507 014 050, 013 086, 013 079, 013 081, 014 028, 014 049, 014 018, 014 017 to RL residential low density zoning designation.
And that, for those watching at home, is what Mr. Steele gets the big bucks for. Thank you, Craig. Jean, thank you for being here this evening. We appreciate your comments. And we appreciate, I know sometimes government seems a little odd on how they do things, but we appreciate you hanging in with us. Okay, we'll now move on to PH2. Public hearing number 2 is an amendment to Title II. Sherry Bermejo, our Planning Division Manager, will give us a staff report. Welcome, Sherry. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Mayor Adams and members of the City Council. And it's my pleasure to present to you, this is a city staff initiated amendment to the city's municipal code to amend provisions relating to reasonable accommodations. And the purpose of these amendments is to streamline the review process and determination process of these types of requests. And I do have a PowerPoint, which is being brought up at this time. And I can briefly start speaking as well about the item.
Please do.
Yes, of course. So as way of background, it's important to note that both federal and state laws require that local jurisdictions, cities and counties have provisions in their law in order to make reasonable accommodations in land use. And these accommodations are intended for people with disabilities. Now, the City of Monrovia has a reasonable accommodation ordinance. It was adopted in 2014 by the City Council, and all the provisions live in our zoning code in Title 17. In 2019, when the City Council adopted the Planning Home Program, which its purpose is to facilitate housing production and facilitate equal enjoyment of a home, equal access to a home for everyone in the community, we included a work program item that included amending the reasonable accommodation ordinance. Next slide. So when we talk about reasonable accommodations, what is it that we really are talking about? Well, anyone who has a home has made modifications to it to enjoy it on their own. Individuals with disabilities also need to make sometimes modifications to the home in order to provide equal access and enjoyment. So this slide's trying to give just a snapshot of what some types of reasonable accommodations could include. For example, a reasonable accommodation request could include the provision of requesting a waiver of a setback requirement for the installation of an access ramp to provide ingress and egress into the home. Perhaps it's a little bonus room of floor area in order to provide maneuverability within a bathroom, a kitchen, or a hallway if someone is in a wheelchair. There are other examples. Perhaps it's an additional area in the driveway, expanded area for safe unloading and loading. There are many types of reasonable accommodations. Now, Monrovia's application requirements are described, as I mentioned, in our zoning code. And when an applicant comes to the planning division, they usually come with information regarding the type, a specific code application that they're looking for relief from, a site plan showing the accommodation that's needed, and why that code section in our zoning code's preventing them equal access, equal enjoyment and use of their home. And of course, we also ask for evidence of disability. The review process currently requires a public hearing before the Development Review Committee. And as you can imagine, someone with a disability going through a public hearing process can be a little bit frightening with all eyes on them and focused on the disability. Now, the findings for approval of a reasonable accommodation request include that the subject dwelling is used by an individual with a disability who's protected under fair housing laws, that the modification is necessary to afford an individual of equal opportunity and use to enjoy a dwelling, that the requested accommodation will not impose an undue financial administrative burden on the city, and that the requested accommodation will not require a fundamental alteration of the city's zoning, building, or land use laws that are currently in place. Now, Ordinance 2020-12 is actually proposing not to change the application process or the findings for approval, but in order to streamline the review and determination process, staff is proposing eliminating the public hearing requirement, expanding staff review authority, and providing a provision so that conditions can be imposed to protect neighborhood compatibility. Now, this expanded review authority that's outlined in the amendment would authorize the Director of Community Development to approve reasonable accommodations that do not involve any other entitlement request. If it did require another entitlement request, like a conditional use permit, then that review authority in charge of that higher level entitlement would review all applications. But if not, then the Director of Community Development could review and approve it. The ordinance also has the provision for the director to refer an application to the Development Review Committee if the request involves structural modification that is permanent and cannot be easily restored when it's no longer needed, and if that request could have an impact on neighborhood compatibility. Now, in that situation, we would send out a notice to the adjacent property owners only, and this would be a public meeting and not a public hearing. Now, decisions on reasonable accommodations include appeal procedures, and the ordinance amendment just outlines and clarifies that the decisions of the director may be appealed by the applicant to the Development Review Committee, and that decisions of the Development Review Committee are appealable to the Planning Commission, and then those decisions of the Planning Commission may be appealed to the City Council. So this ordinance amendment was reviewed by the Planning Commission meeting at their meeting on November 18th. It is exempt under the CEQA, and they found that it was also identified as a priority item in the city's Planning Home program. And they also found that the proposed amendment will promote housing opportunities for persons with disabilities, but that eliminating the public hearing requirement and expanding the review authority would streamline the overall review process. So with that, I'd like to conclude my presentation, and I am available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Good report as always.
Thank you.
Any questions for Sherry?
I have one, Sherry. If the subject property is a designated landmark or could be landmarked, how does that factor into this?
That's a great question. Any alterations to a historic landmark, especially with the Mills Act contract, would require a review before the Historic Preservation Commission of a certificate of appropriateness. They would still have the authority to review that.
Any other questions for Sherry? Okay, this is a public hearing. I will open the public hearing and look to the city clerk to see if we have any correspondence.
We have nobody present in the meeting, and just double checking. No, we've received no written comments.
Okay, with no one in attendance and no written comments, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead. Go ahead, Larry.
You go ahead, Becky.
I make a motion to introduce, waive further reading, and read by title only ordinance number 2020-12.
And I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Any objection? Alice, please call the roll.
Council members Crudgington,
Yes.
Shevlin,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
and Mayor Adams.
Yes, and I'll call on our in-house shark to to read that for us, please.
Christmas shark, please.
Thank you. Thank you. That's ordinance number 2020-12, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Monrovia, California, amending Title II, Administration and Personnel, and Title 17, Zoning of the Monrovia Municipal Code relating to review and determination procedures for reasonable accommodation requests.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, we will now move on to our reports of city manager and staff and our city council directives update. Mr. Feek.
Yes, hello, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple brief items for you. As you can see in the agenda packet, the council directives assigned. We actually have been able to provide responses to several of these items today, including a few presentations. Two items that I'd like to talk specifically about. One is electric vehicle charging stations. As council knows, we recently purchased 6 vehicles, electric vehicles, and as we're currently getting those set up and ready to go and put into city operations, we're excited to have them. But we've also been working with one of our local companies that's based here in Monrovia, which manufactures electric vehicle charging stations and has some very creative, unique solutions. We're going to look at running a couple pilot projects, possibly electric charging stations on city lots, but also perhaps bring back to council, in addition to city lots, perhaps some partnership programs where we can really look at promoting and installing electric charging stations throughout the community in designated areas. And certainly the city has funds available through our AQMD funds to do the work. So we're excited, and as we push forward, we'll be bringing more information to council very soon. But we're very fortunate to have a local partner here who provides what seems to be a very cool and unique product that actually has some unique cost savings measures for cities, which seem to be a really good fit for what we're trying to do. The other item I want to mention briefly is actually not shown on the council directives, but it was approved earlier tonight on the consent calendar. It's referred to as MPOD. Under the consent calendar, the city entered into a memorandum of understanding with the LA County Department of Public Health to create an MOU around what's called a mobile point of dispensing site, or an MPOD. This is a planning process we've been underway with for approximately the last 5 months in establishing a site, which would be the Monrovia Community Center, where if needed, we could establish a point of dispensing vaccinations. At the time and through these last several months, we used a different model, anthrax response, to prepare a plan, a safety plan, as vaccines are developed and as they look through how they distribute them in mass quantities, not only across the country, but specifically here in LA County, and then even particularly here in Monrovia. So we're very excited to have this MOU in place, which, certainly the city has created a site. We, have designated responsibilities. We have to do a little bit more training just to make sure we know who does what. But in the event that the COVID vaccine needs to be distributed and administered right here in the city of Monrovia, we have a site and a location. So I just want the community to know that we've been planning for this for a long time, as have many. I'm very fortunate the vaccine now is in California, and we are told that planning is underway to possibly begin providing vaccines to some of our City of Monrovia employees, first responders, as early as next week. So we're very excited that it's here, and as we're watching the news and learning more, there's more to come. But I just wanted to share that little bit of information as part of an earlier council action. I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Any questions of Mr. Feek?
No.
Thank you, Dylan. Keep in mind when you look to get the vaccine for our first responders, it's been widely known that Larry Spicer is one of them. So we want to make sure that he gets on that list.
I thought Larry was already immune.
Well, that could very well be. I wasn't aware of that, but maybe after that dinner the other night he would be.
Yeah, tell me about it. The rub, man.
All right, thank you, Dylan. Okay, RCM2 is a review of our city employee demographics. Lauren Vasquez, our assistant city manager, will give us that report. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. Let me pull up this PowerPoint. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Adams and council members. Per council's request at last meeting, tonight I'm going to present an overview of the city's employees' demographics. Now, this is a snapshot of the city demographic data that was taken as of November 3rd, 2020. And the data sets will include race and ethnicity, age, gender, and I'll cover it in terms of citywide by department, and then the difference between full-time and part-time as council had requested. So as of November 3rd, the city currently has 270 employees. Oops, let's see, it's not sharing with you. I'm seeing it, but you're not seeing it, so hold on one more second.
I told you technology. I think there are solar flares or I don't know.
Thank you, Alice. Okay, does everybody see the PowerPoint? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. So as of November 3rd, the city currently has 270 employees. This includes 211 full-time employees and 59 part-time employees. And we're broken into 7 departments, which include administrative services, the city manager's office, which houses the human resources division, community development, community services, which houses the library and recreation, fire and rescue, police, and public works. Now, this next slide is an overview of the entire citywide demographics, and I'll get into each of these a little bit more in detail, but this is just a first visual on the race and ethnicity, age, and gender. Now, in terms of ethnic origin, the way that we collect this data is on a voluntary basis. When we hire our employees, we have them do a self-identification form as per our EEOC, our Equal Employment Opportunity Commission requires, but it is voluntary. So that's how we collect the information. On a citywide basis, we have 270 employees, as I mentioned. We have 29 employees that identify with Asian Pacific Islander, 10 employees that identify with Black or African American, 104 employees that identify as Hispanic or Latino, 2 employees that actually, this category has been updated. It's American Indian or Alaskan Native, and then 123 that identify as white. Now, in terms of how it's broken up by each of the departments, under administrative services, we have 15 employees. And as you see, 40% identify as Asian Pacific Islander, 33% Hispanic, and 27% white. In the city manager's office, we have 13 employees, 46 identify as Asian Pacific Islander, 23 Hispanic, and 31 white. In the community development department, we have 24 employees, 4 of which identify as Asian Pacific Islander, 8 as Black or African American, 38 as Hispanic or Latino, 4 as American Indian or Alaskan Native, and 46% as white. In community services, we have 61 employees, 5% Asian Pacific Islander, 7% Black or African American, 49% Hispanic, 38% white, and 2% who chose not to answer. In fire and rescue, we have 46 employees, 9% Asian Pacific Islander, 4% identify as Black or African American, 20% Hispanic, and 67% white. Moving on to the police department, we have 79 employees, 8 identify Asian Pacific Islander, 39 Hispanic, 1% American Indian or Alaskan Native, 51% white, and 1% who chose not to respond. And last, in public works, we have 32 employees, 9 of which identify as Asian Pacific Islander, 6% as Black or African American, 53% Hispanic, and 31% white. Now, in terms of part-time versus full-time, I'm going to focus on the citywide here. We have, of the 270 employees, we have 22% that are part-time, that's 59 employees, and we have 211 full-time employees, that's 78%. And I'll get into the rest of the stats here in the next slides. Now, breaking it up to only full-time employees, in the Administrative Services Division, there are 13 employees, full-time employees, 46 Asian Pacific Islander, 31 Hispanic, 23 white. In the City Manager's Office, there are 12 full-time employees, 50% Asian Pacific Islander, 17% Hispanic, and 33% white. In Community Development, we have 21 full-time employees, 5 Asian Pacific Islander, 5 Black or African American, 38% Hispanic, 5% Native American or Alaskan, and 48% white. In Community Services, we have 18 employees. We have 11 Asian Pacific Islander, 39% Hispanic, and 50% white. In Fire, we have 45 full-time employees, 9% Asian Pacific Islander, 4% Black or African American, 20% Hispanic, and 67% white. In our Police Department, we have 70 full-time employees, 9% Asian Pacific Islander, 36% Hispanic, 1% American Indian or Alaskan Native, 53% white, and 1% who chose not to respond. And last, in our Public Works Department, we have 32 full-time employees, 9% Asian Pacific Islander, 6% Black or African American, 53% Hispanic, and 31% white. Now, in comparison, here is a chart of our part-time employees. We have 59 part-time employees citywide. In the Administrative Services Division, we have 2 part-time employees. One identifies as Hispanic, one identifies as white. In City Manager's Office, we have 1 part-time employee, identifies Hispanic. In Community Development, we have 3, and actually 2 of the part-time employees are retired annuitants. So 33% identify as Black, African American, 33% Hispanic, and 33% white. In Community Services, we have 43 part-time employees, 2% Asian Pacific Islander, 9% Black or African American, 53% Hispanic, and 33% white, and 2% chose not to respond. In Fire, we have 1 part-time employee, identifies as white. And in our Police Department, we have 9 part-time employees, 67% Hispanic or Latino, and 33% white. And last, in our Public Works Department, we have 0 part-time employees. Next is our age groups here at the city. The average age citywide is 40. The average age for administrative services is 42. The City Manager's Office, 40. Community Development, 42. Community Services, 36. Fire, 39. Police, 40. And Public Works, 40. The last set of data that I'm going to share and present tonight is the gender. In terms of citywide, we have 121 employees that are female and 149 employees male. In administrative services, we have 12 that are female, 3 male. In City Manager's Office, we have 10, 77% female, and 3, 23% male. In Community Development, we have 13 employees that are female, 11 male. In Community Services, we have 42, 69% female, and 18 employees, 31% male. In Fire, we have 3 employees, 7% female, and 43 employees, which is 93% male. In Police, we have 36 employees, which is 46% female, and 43 employees, which is 54% male. And last, in Public Works, we have 5 employees, 16% female, and 27 employees, which is 84% male. This concludes my overview of the city employee demographics. Again, this is just a snapshot of the numbers, and the numbers will change as employees leave the city or we onboard new hires. And for the council's reference, all of this data has been and will be presented to the ad hoc committee as they're spending time with each of our departments, learning about the demographics and learning about each of the departments. And we look forward to hearing the recommendations of the committee on, additional ways that we can further diversity in the workforce. This concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Lauren, I have a question on the various graphs, the citywide percentage. I was a little confused by that. On any of those, do you actually list what we are as a city, the demographics?
No, I did not list the population of City of Monrovia. I only listed the data on employees of Monrovia.
To make the presentation more complete, I would suggest that you add what the city demographics are, so that whether or not our employees are reflecting what our city demographics are. Because I know in listening to those, the meetings of the ad hoc committee, I know that question comes up on a lot.
Yes, very good point. I can do that.
I think generally speaking, we would all like to see our workforce mirror what the community looks like. And I realize that change takes time, but I do appreciate the report. I think there's some interesting numbers in it, and we'll look forward to the ad hoc committee and what their take is on this. Are there any other questions for Lauren? Okay, Lauren, good report. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll now move on to reports of city council members, and we'll start with Mr. Spicer.
Okay, Mayor, the Monrovia Historical Society has unveiled a set of 83 videos on the Monrovia history, featuring Monrovia Historical Society President and City Historian Steve Baker. During this month-long Monrovia Stories Project, the Historical Society President, Sandy Berg, she interviewed Steve Baker, who is a fifth-generation Monrovian with a gift for storytelling, as we all know. And also he has good storytelling about the great bank robbery of 1908, a murder, an explosion, that destroyed our grand old hotel, early architecture, churches, schools, movie theaters, film studios, and dozen more topics. A selection of videos is on the Monrovia Historical Society webpage. I would give you all the different emails, but they're on the city manager's report, and they'll be on his upcoming report. Also, Lauren will put it on the city's website. So I want to give you all of that information, but the Monrovia Historical Society's goal is to preserve and share Monrovia historical legacy through the George H. Anderson's house at 215 East Line and the Legacy Project, which is an online collection of 6,000 historic photos and papers. So for more information, please visit the Monrovia Historical Society webpage at monroviahistoricalsociety.org. Like I said, the city manager will have this on his upcoming report. I just would like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Don't eat too much. Dylan, thank you so much for the ribs. That rub was off the chain. I really enjoyed it. It was good. And Merry Christmas to my colleague, and have a Happy New Year. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Larry. Good report. We'll now move on to Mrs. Shevlin. And Becky, you're muted, and that's not a complaint. You're still muted, and that's still not a complaint.
There. How's that? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry to disappoint you. Wow. Okay, am I able to share my screen, Alice?
I think we can make that happen. Give us just a moment.
I don't know why.
All right. You should have permissions now.
I don't know why. Hold on a second here.
I didn't know we could do show and tell.
Yeah, well, I wanted to show it was something Larry was talking about the Historic Society, about their videos. And, I don't know that it's going to, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'll just verbally give the report. I was going to share Monrovia Reads has numerous stories. They've taped stories being read by various community members and Monrovia Reads members. Great opportunity for kids to hear stories read by our community members. Since we weren't able to go into the classrooms this year as we normally would, we did this with partnership of KGEM. They tape the sessions, but it's not just for kids. I mean, you might have a favorite story that you see on there, or maybe something new, and you can listen to it. They're all done very, very, very well. So if you just go on to monroviareads.org, and it'll show right on the front screen, the home screen, and you can click on it and it'll take you right to the videos. And so enjoy. And I understand that Carrie is also at the library, is going to be putting that up on the city's website, on the library site, so you can access it through the library site as well. But great opportunity to hear some great stories. I also wanted to mention that Monrovia, this was an update that I received from Marissa Creeder, the director at the San Gabriel Valley COG, that the energy work group on Tuesday, that would have been December 8th, that they held its quarterly meeting via Go to meeting. The energy work group celebrated the agency's achievements in the 2020 San Gabriel Valley Energy Champion Awards. Assembly member Chris Holden, who chairs the Assembly Committee on Utilities and Energy, provided welcoming remarks to congratulate the cities and agencies that have reached recognizable tiers in the 2020 Energy Champion Awards. And a total of 15 cities and agencies were highlighted. There are 3 categories or 3 levels: bronze, silver, and gold. At the gold tier, City of Monrovia won a gold award. So that's to be commended. And the energy, hold on a second, I've got it here. Hold on a second. The energy work group is the San Gabriel Valley Energy Wise Partnership Work Group, is a partnership initiative that provides a platform to facilitate peer discussions on municipal energy efficiency projects. Municipal staff can share best practices, engage in collaborative discussions, listen to energy efficiency presentations given by experts, and work together to develop regional solutions to lower the energy use across the San Gabriel Valley region. So the City of Monrovia has been working very hard, our staff has, to cut our utility costs and be energy wise. So I want to congratulate Monrovia staff for doing that. And so congratulations on your gold tier award. And I too want to wish everybody a very, very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that. Wish we were celebrating together. Going to miss watching our ball raising this year in Old Town, but happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and yes, Dylan, thanks for the ribs. Those were yummies. So there you go. And on this Thursday, I think I mentioned last time, I will be joining staff Tina Cherry, and we're going to go check out the Arcadia resource hub, homeless resource hub. And I'll give you a report back on that in January. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Becky. Mrs. Crudgington.
Thank you, Tom. The Monrovia Historic Preservation Group is planning for our Old Homes Tour to go on next year in a virtual way. Other organizations have put together ways to view people's homes in the way that we're having this meeting, and we're looking forward to presenting hopefully the first and last virtual tour. But we're excited about it and looking forward to it. That's really all I've got, except to wish everyone a blessed holiday season. Please stay safe. We're all exhausted with being under house arrest. But please take good care of yourselves and each other by wearing masks, social distancing, and keeping our guard up until we get vaccinated and can move on with our lives. So, I also want to thank Dylan for the ribs. It was a nice Christmas present. Thank you very much. Everyone take care.
Thank you, Gloria. First, I want to thank everyone for their patience. I know this has been a challenging 9 months. It's not over yet. We've not been able to conduct the people's business in the manner that we like to, that we prefer to, and that we're accustomed to. But I think everyone from our city manager on down has worked very diligently to make sure that we can get the people's business taken care of, even if it's not in the manner that we're used to. So we thank you for your patience. I know we all long for a time when we can greet you back at City Hall, and we look forward to that. But from what I'm hearing right now, that might be sometime next summer. It's going to take a long time. Until then, don't forget your masks. Make sure you put these on, wash your hands, sanitize your hands, maintain your social distancing, and all the things that you do. I want to wish each and every one of you a very happy holiday, a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, a Happy New Year. Whatever you celebrate in your household, we wish you the best of the best. And we look forward to seeing you all next year. And we look forward to finally coming up with an answer to COVID-19, and so we can get back to business. So thank you all very much.
And could we remind everyone, please, to support our local businesses?
Absolutely.
Restaurants, you can order takeout, you can pick up, do what you can to help them.
That's a great point, Gloria. I know from time to time I post some information on a program called 350. And what it asks everyone to do is take $50 that you have and spend it on 3 local businesses in hopes that they will be there when this is all over. So I know they've been battling with LA County. They beat that, and now they're battling with the state of California. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason for anything that is going on right now. But you're right, Gloria. Support our local business. Pick the ones that you are truly hopeful will be here when this is all over, and see if we can't help get them there. So thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to administrative reports. AR1 is a review of a potential streetlight retrofit program. And Chris Castrita, Senior Management Analyst, will give us that staff report. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm trying to activate my video. As Mayor Adams noted, I'll be giving a review of potential streetlight retrofit program known as the Schedule LS1 Option E with Southern California Edison. So a little background, there are approximately 3,000 streetlights in Monrovia, of which Southern California Edison owns and maintains 1,600. SCE charges a monthly fee known as an LS1 tariff to provide electricity and maintenance of their lights, and all of their lights presently use high-pressure sodium light bulbs. At the November 17th council meeting, staff provided an overview of the LS1 Option E tariff program to retrofit the utility-owned lights with light-emitting diode technologies. At that time, council did request additional review of potential impacts to the community, namely in the form of the equipment design as well as public health. More specifically, the council did indicate a desire for further analysis of different lamps that could be used, including use of street lamps with color below 3,000 Kelvin, reducing the wattage and brightness of those street lights, installation of shielding to prevent light spillover, and finally, council indicated a desire for additional review of the health impacts of LED lighting, specifically the potential increase in levels of blue light, which could disrupt production of melatonin in the human bodies and sleep cycles as well. To provide some additional information on this, we have here with us this evening Mr. John King. He is SCE's Manager of Streetlight Projects and Technology Development. John's been with SCE for over 28 years, has had a hand in multiple streetlight projects across the Southland and service improvements for the past decade. You might also know John as a colleague who sits on the Covina City Council, and he's been kind enough to ditch them for a short time this evening to join us for this presentation. John,
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you very much, Chris. And Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. City Manager and City Attorney, it's so good to be with you all tonight. Of course, my mayor and council members, I gave them a heads up that I was going to be ditching out for a few minutes here tonight. And they send their regards and their holiday best, of course, to all of you. I don't dress like this for every council meeting. So I want you to know this was a special occasion tonight just for you guys, of course. Chris mentioned the Option E program and did a great job of introducing that. And Chris, if you want to go ahead and head for that next slide, I'd be glad to start to talk that through. Option E, quite simply, is Edison's program that asks cities to allow us to go through and change out the existing high-pressure sodium lights that are in your community today and replace those with new LED technology. The communities that participate in the program see a savings as soon as the implementation is complete, financial savings as well as an energy savings. And that, of course, equates into a lower carbon footprint for your community as well. We utilize the latest GE fixtures. They're called GE Evolve roadway fixtures. They have really good optics to them. So I noted in the earlier discussion there that Chris was leading, the discussion of shields and some of those kinds of things. These fixtures perform really well, and the optics that are built into these new fixtures really alleviate the need for shields in most cases. They're dark sky compliant. They place the light on the street surface the way that we want it to and that you would hope, as opposed to the older style high pressure sodium lights that kind of threw light in a lot of directions in order to get enough light to the street surface. These work really well. I think some of the things that are really important to note about these new LED fixtures is that they really improve the ability to see. Our human eyes see so much better beneath these. It's called visual acuity. And it allows us to see color in ways that we couldn't see underneath the high pressure sodium lights. There's an index called color rendering. And the new LED fixtures allow us to see color in ways that we couldn't before. And that gives the impression that we're seeing that the light is brighter. It's not actually, the science of it is that it's not brighter, but we can see better. So it looks brighter and the colors are much better for our visual acuity. They provide better visibility, and that translates, of course, as elected officials and as a local government. You know, we're always thinking about what we can do to improve safety, both for pedestrians and drivers in our community, and these new LED lights do a great job of helping out with that. And as I mentioned, they save significant energy. It's about a third the energy that is utilized, and that lowers your community's overall carbon footprint, of course. So, Chris, if we go forward. The program that I manage, or one of the programs that I manage installing these, we've now implemented over 220,000. We crossed 220,000 lights last week, as a matter of fact, across our service territory. And as you might imagine, in our 50,000 square miles, we have a varied applications for these lights. So we have been in as diverse of places as Visalia to the north and Blythe out on the Arizona coastline, Mono County in the Eastern Sierra, Joshua Tree, all around the national park and in the communities in San Bernardino County there, Santa Barbara and the North Coast, and then all across the greater LA Basin, we've been implementing in communities as they come forward. It's been a very successful program. And I will tell you that in every community that we've worked in, we of course see a few folks that are not enamored with the lights. They're different, and change is always hard. But quite honestly, in most communities, I would say that's in the half dozen range or less. I've only had one community that I had more than that, and it actually wasn't very many more than that. So it's been a really good program, and the 3,000 Kelvin lights work very well. It's a warmer color temperature, and I think that's largely why we've had such good success. They look like a warmer light. They're not quite as warm as the existing lights, the high pressure sodium lights, but it is a warmer color temperature. It's a more pleasing look and approach, and it's been very, very well received over the last several years. Color temperature is different from wattage, and we won't get too far into the weeds on that, but we do utilize a standard, as I like to say, like for like wattage replacement system, and that preserves the design and the look of your streets. Quite honestly, we want to make sure that we're not changing the design of the streets in terms of lumens at the street surface and things of that nature. So this wattage replacement scheme that we utilize was developed in conjunction with GE and the Illumination Engineering Society, so that we can make sure that we're replacing lights in an appropriate way. We're not traffic engineers or street designers by any stretch, so we want to make sure that we protect the look and the design that your community implemented any number of years ago that these streets were designed and built. Chris, were you able to include the picture that I took?
I was, John. I have them available in a picture in a later slide. I hope you don't mind that.
Okay. Nope, all good. So I'll just wrap up my piece of this presentation by noting, and of course, I'll be glad to answer any questions as we get to that point, but I'll just note that again, the 3000K, which is on the warm side of the scale, that is not similar to the lights that were utilized in Northern California that raised a number of concerns. They actually used 5,000 and 6,000 Kelvin temperature lights in Northern California in a couple of communities, and it raised a lot of medical and community concerns. No community that I'm aware of in Southern California has utilized for either their own customer-owned lights or SCE-owned lights has used anything along that line. And in fact, the 3000 has really become our standard, which we're very happy with it, and we've had good luck with the communities that we've implemented in. We really hope to be able to work with you and to implement this in Monrovia. You've probably seen that we've completed work in both Arcadia to your west and Duarte to your east, in communities all around the San Gabriel Valley, and as I mentioned, all across the territory. So looking forward to it. Chris, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, John.
Oh, I had another slide. I'm sorry. I hadn't finished yet. Just in terms of the actual implementation, and we can be real quick here. We do install during the day, so this is a very seamless work process. The installation takes about 10 minutes at each light. So most residential customers and folks in town don't even realize that we've come and gone through their neighborhood until we're long gone. So it's a very, very streamlined, efficient, and safe process. We'd expect that we'd be in your community with 3,000-ish lights. We'd expect to be there just about a month maybe a little bit less, working on a normal 5-day-a-week schedule. The wait time, I'm often asked about the wait time. We would expect right now, given the cities that are in line ahead of you, I would say just about 6 months, maybe a little bit less in terms of the actual wait time. And then one of the other questions that we get is what happens in, pick a number, 1 year or day 2 when our mythical friend Joe the drunk knocks down a pole, or year 10, whatever it might be, when one of these lights does fail ultimately. SCE continues to own and operate the lights. We replace them upon failure. As you may know, there's never any charge, any cost to the city when we come out and conduct that maintenance and make those replacements. And this would continue to be true into the future. Those replacements are covered as part of our tariff and our ongoing work. So there's never any cost in the future to the city at all. The LED upgrade, as I noted, brings improved safety. I would say the lighting is superior and works really well. The energy and cost savings are documented, and you'll see a benefit from that. And then, of course, the visual acuity for your residents and visitors, both pedestrians and drivers, the safety aspect of that is just phenomenal. So again, thanks for your time. And if I can answer any questions, I'm of course glad to.
Moving on then, staff did have some additional information with regards to the equipment design currently in place of streetlights. In order to provide this information, we really want to focus upon the color temperature and the brightness of the lights as they're the primary aspects that would directly impact the look of the city at night. So a little bit about color temperature. As John mentioned, the color temperature of the lights being proposed would be 3,000 Kelvin. The current high-pressure sodium street lights have color temperature of 2,200 Kelvin. As you can see, there's a range of different Kelvin temperatures that would produce a range of different colors of the lights. On the next slide, we do have a comparison of lights currently in place. On the left picture, you do see a picture of 2,200 Kelvin high-pressure sodium lights currently in Monrovia. This would be along Duarte Road west of Myrtle. On the right, you have a picture of a 3,000 Kelvin LED light in Duarte. And that is, as John mentioned, a warm white light, as you can see. Moving on then, the streetlight brightness is really derived mainly from the wattage of lights. The current utility-owned streetlights have a range of wattages from 50 watts all the way up to 250 watts. As you can see, the majority of those lights are 70-watt lights, and those are used mainly in our residential local streets, as you'll see in the next slide, where we have a picture of 70-watt lights in place along Highland Place, north of Hillcrest Avenue. That is near to the hillsides. There are portions of the hillsides that would not be impacted by the project. This is one street that, in fact, would be. As you can see on the left-hand picture, we have that portion of Hillcrest north of Highland Place north of Hillcrest. That during the day, in the middle picture, the 70-watt high-pressure sodium lights illuminated, and then on the right, we have an LED equivalent to the 70-watt high-pressure sodium located in the city of San Dimas that was provided by John for this presentation. Moving on, we have pictures of 200-watt lights, or their equivalents. These lights are utilized mostly along our major thoroughfares, our arterials, such as Foothill, Huntington Drive, and portions of Duarte Road, as this picture was taken. So once again, this picture is of Duarte Road west of Myrtle Avenue. The picture on the left is that location during the day. In the middle picture, we have the 200-watt high-pressure sodium light illuminated at night. And finally, on the right-hand side, we have a picture of the LED equivalent to 200-watt high-pressure sodium taken in the city of Duarte. So staff has reviewed the Option E agreement, as has the city attorney, which is available this evening should the council desire to proceed with the project. Staff is also developing a project proposal to retrofit city-owned streetlights to LED. This would include things such as lamp selection, a work plan, and budget for future consideration. I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have this evening.
Well, John, we appreciate you joining us, and we want you to know anytime you want to come visit in Monrovia, if you're wearing that jacket, you're always welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Chris, good report. We appreciate that. Are there any questions for either Chris or John?
I did want to ask on the pictures that are, if you go back to that last set of pictures, because we were talking about the dark sky, I just wanted to know on this one, the LED equivalent looks like there's far more illumination in the night sky versus the other one, the 200 watt.
Sure, and council member, if I can share just a little bit about that. So you might have heard me say that the optics on these lights are much, much better. And what that really means is the ability of the light to throw, or the fixture to throw the light right down on the street. So the older high pressure sodium light in the middle picture, one of the problems and challenges that was always had with high pressure sodium lights is they were not optically very, very good. They threw light in a lot of different directions and kind of all over the place in order to get enough lumens on the street surface. The LEDs have the ability to focus that light in a much more precise manner. So you quite literally, if you were to go out and look at that street this evening after you get done, you would see what we call cutoffs or lines on the far side of the street, somewhere about 6 feet beyond the curb line, and behind the light, again, 6 to 8 feet behind the curb line, you would see another line where the light essentially stops or it falls off dramatically. And so all of the light is being placed on the street surface. It's not going skyward, which is one of the problems that we had with the high pressure sodium lights. So the ability to control that light, to place it where it's supposed to be, and to utilize it more effectively and efficiently creates a dark sky compliant light. And all of the GE fixtures that we utilize are indeed dark sky compliant and utilize those superior optics.
So this particular example, the sky behind it is not being lit up, because if you want to compare the two pictures, one looks like it's very dark in the background, and the LED looks like it's more illuminated.
Yeah, I suspect that's the fact that underneath that light, there's actually more light at the surface where the camera phone probably was situated.
Yeah, it does look that way.
Yeah, I suspect that's the case.
Okay.
I have a couple questions. So we've installed these new bulbs on Ivy in the block with City Hall across from City Hall on the east side of the street, correct?
Correct, council member.
So my husband and I took a little drive, and I don't like the light coming from these new bulbs. We noticed a couple of things besides the color change, making the appearance of the streets colder, since it's more in the white to blue area as opposed to orange and yellow like our current street lights. And in addition to that, on our car, there was almost like a halo effect from the LED lights that we both found disturbing. Now I want to put this in context for why this is concerning me, because when we first installed new light fixtures downtown on Myrtle Avenue in the Victorian-looking light fixtures, it was so bright down there that all we got was complaints, and literally had to replace them with lower wattage bulbs in order to get everybody calmed down. Since my husband is an electrical engineer and an electrical contractor, we had a prolonged discussion about how quickly the whole field of LEDs has been coming along, where internally we live in a historic home. So we couldn't get anything that looked older that was LED, and now that has changed considerably. So I'm wondering if it's possible to either get or wait a little longer for them to develop an LED equivalent that's a little more equivalent in terms of a warmer light instead of what struck me as something I'm going to hear complaints about from my constituents.
Understood, council member. With regards to the lights that were installed along Ivy, in our haste to get something out there for presentation and demonstration to the community as well as the council, we did work with a vendor who had an engineer who provided a recommendation on the equivalent lights to install. In our haste, we informed them that that Ivy is a collector and received information and recommendations for a higher wattage than was actually necessary. We would hope to go back and make corrections to that location moving forward, something that is more appropriate to the specific size of the street and the residential nature of it. With regards to the lighting as it stands and the color value, John, you would probably be the expert with regards to the available options on the market for street lights as they currently stand. But my understanding is that there is somewhat of a range.
You bet. So, Councilmember, great question, and I actually got to visit Ivy Street as well and see those lights, and I would agree with Chris. It looks like the lights that were installed would be designed or utilized in a collector or arterial type of situation, when in fact something that's more of a residential nature there would probably be more appropriate. So as you saw in that earlier chart, the vast majority of lights in Rosemead are 70 watts today, which is a typical residential. It's on the lower end, but it is a typical residential application or wattage, I should say. So that light that I showed from San Dimas would be more along the lines of what you would see in the neighborhoods. I think the thing that we have found is that balancing the efficacy of these lights, or let me go back to the term that I used earlier, that visual acuity, balancing the ability to maximize the safety and visual benefits of the lights against the color temperature was one of the reasons in consulting with GE and the Illumination Engineering Society and of course our own internal lighting engineers, is why we landed, for ourselves at least, on a recommendation of 3000 K, and that's become our standard. I think that most communities across the territory have found that it's a great balance point. If you go down to the 2750 lights, which they are available, we don't utilize them, but they are available on the market today. You start to lose both some lumens and you also lose some of the visual acuity. So the 3000 K has virtually no loss in visual acuity or the color rendering index, to be more precise, and you lose very few lumens as well. So we found that to be a good balance point. It's pleasing. It does have a warm color temperature, and we have found, at least in the comments back from communities, from many of the council members that I've worked with and staffs that I've worked with, that it's worked out very well. Police report that they can see colors more clearly. They can see the color of liquids on the ground where they couldn't before. Car colors are more readily identifiable, things of that nature. So it's been I think it's been a good color spot to land on. And quite honestly, it's been well accepted in virtually all of the communities that we've worked with, including your friends just to the west in Arcadia. We had, to my recollection, I think I had 2 calls from the city of Arcadia that I worked with the city on. So it was a really good implementation there.
Well, you'll pardon my saying that in my experience of living here for 40 years, there are a lot of ways in which Monrovians are fussier and than our neighbors to the west. And if you'd been here to hear the cry go up about the streets, lights on Myrtle Avenue, you might have a different opinion. If in fact we have put the wrong bulbs and the lights across the street from City Hall, you can understand why I would want to see the correct ones before I made a decision on this.
Well, again, I think
And-
you have the
and if we've
opportunity to
got-
see these
if-
lights. I'm sorry, I was just going to say, you certainly have the opportunity to see these lights literally blocks away and, in any direction, or in Glendora, Duarte, Arcadia, and any of those communities have those lights. And we've pointed out for Chris and Sean also some areas where there are 70-watt lights. So if you did want to see those, you can certainly take a look at those, and glad to have you do that, of course.
Well, I would be very glad to have the bulbs that we are thinking about considering here in our community, where we can move from one block to the other and very quickly can see the contrast and how they're different. And I wouldn't feel good about okaying them until we've done that.
Understood. We can go about working with our vendor to obtain the correct wattage of equivalent light and get those installed in as quick a manner as possible.
I have to agree with Gloria. And in the meantime, if you can identify or provide for us locations in Arcadia and or Duarte, that we can even have even a larger sampling of the contrast between the 70-watt and the LED equivalent, that would be great as well.
Can do, Councilman.
And
Gloria,
are the 2750 bulbs up anywhere?
No.
And that is because?
We don't utilize them. We found in our findings, they don't provide the same visual acuity. They don't provide the same energy savings. The energy to lumens ratio is not as good. And that's why that was my discussion around why the 3000 made sense. We've found that, and if you look at that color scale that Chris showed earlier, the 3000 is definitely to the warm end of the color temperature scale. So we've made sure to be there. From a safety standpoint, from a medical standpoint, it's a proven spot where it makes sense. And quite honestly, to drop down to the 2700, you start to lose some of the benefits. So it didn't make sense for us from a business perspective.
Gloria, let me ask you a question. Would it make sense for us to approve this tonight so we can get at least on the list, subject to you and Becky going out and looking at the 3000 bulb in place? And that will obviously give us more than adequate time to pull this if we need to.
That's
Well,
reasonable.
In addition, I think I heard that the bulbs on Ivy are not the bulbs that we would be purchasing.
Correct.
Did I hear that?
Correct. So that's what I'm saying is that I think we could approve this tonight, get the bulb on Ivy changed, get you over to see it, and in effect have a little veto power if need be, but at least we would get our name on the list for the 6-month wait.
Obviously, as an environmentalist, the energy savings on this alone make it a very attractive process. I just know that the city manager has put out in its newsletter that an example of what we have. So our residents have also been driving through. I would be comfortable doing that, Tom, as long as we retained our veto power and we got to see what those lights look like.
Okay.
The real bulbs that would be replaced. replacing the ones we have. If the
So-
ones that are up right now are brighter and the ones that we would actually be receiving were less bright, that would make a big difference to me. And I don't like buying a pig in a poke.
I understand. Dylan, if you're still out there, is this something we can do that we could approve this subject to Gloria and Becky reviewing the change to the correct bulb?
I would believe so, and I might defer to Craig Steele's opinion on this matter, but it looks like the agreement that we have drafted at the last meeting in November, council requested staff to prepare the agreement, which does include authorization and signature from the city manager. So as long as I have council's approval to move forward, of course, considering getting the right bulbs out in place, I'll make sure that before we proceed, we get some new fixtures installed. We get everybody to review. We installed the bulbs again as quickly as we could, back in October, just to be able to give residents as much time as we could. And that's ultimately what we want. Is we want everybody to be happy. So we'll get these changed out, and then I'll wait for Gloria, Becky, and invite all the council, all the community, just to check them out again.
Yeah, and regardless of whether we go forward or not, ultimately go forward, we shouldn't have the wrong bulbs in the fixtures. If those aren't the ones we wanted or should be there, they should be replaced regardless. But
and that's why we're asking to
yeah.
have them replaced.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna go out too, Tom.
Okay.
Yeah. And the address is in Arcadia, so we can go see, or Dwardy, so we can see at a larger, even larger scale what they look like.
Okay. Gloria, you're in agreement with that?
I'm cool.
Becky?
Yes.
Larry?
I'm cooler.
Okay.
Hey,
Then I
stop
will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion then to approve the Schedule LS-1 Option E Energy Efficient Light Emitting Diode LED Fixture Replacement Rate Agreement with Southern California Edison Company, and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents in a form approved by the city attorney, with the caveat that we have the veto power pending our actual viewing of the appropriate lights.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Any objection? Alice, please call the roll.
Councilmember Gretchenden,
Yes.
Shevlin,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
and Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you. John, thank you again for joining us. Happy
My pleasure.
holidays to you and your family, and give our neighbors over in Covina our best, and bring that jacket back. We need to see that.
Or
I
tell us
certainly
where
will.
you got it so we can get one for Tom.
Yeah.
No,
I'm sorry.
we don't.
It's a deeply held secret where I buy my jackets. I'm sorry.
They probably don't have my size. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you all
Thank
very
you,
much.
John.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. We'll now move on to, we'll convene the Monrovia Housing Authority meeting without adjourning the city council meeting. And I'll ask our master municipal clerk to call the roll.
Board members Credgington,
Here.
Shevlin,
Here.
Spicer,
Here.
and Chairman Adams.
Here. Thank you. We have 2 items on the consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Alice, please call the roll.
Board members Credgington,
Yes.
Shevlin,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
Chairman Adams.
Yes, thank you. We will adjourn the MHA meeting and reconvene the city council meeting on a very sad note. And this is such a tough time of year to lose a loved one. It taints the holidays for you. And I'm unfortunately have to announce the loss of some of our Monrovia family this week. Joaquin Jack Sabala is the grandfather of Neighborhood Services Administrative Assistant Lauren Davidsmeyer. Timothy Spicer, husband of Yvonne Spicer and uncle of our own council member Larry Spicer. Larry, our thoughts and prayers go with your family. Mercedes Duarte, longtime resident and teacher's aide at Canyon Early Learning Center. Marcelino Velasco, longtime Monrovia Transit driver and Empire Transportation employee. And we just learned today that Joanne Montgomery passed away. Joanne is, well, I'll tell you, if there was anyone that was well-loved and well-respected in this town, Joanne Montgomery tops that list. Long-term teacher, a fifth grade teacher, if I remember correctly, from when my kids were in school, and went on to serve after her retirement as a teacher with the Citrus College Board of Trustees for a long time, served in a variety of positions in Monrovia, always supporting the community, always positive. She just completed her term as Citrus College trustee a few weeks ago, and has now passed. If you would keep all of these folks' families in your thoughts and prayers, I know they will appreciate it. Larry, our thoughts and prayers stay with your family and with everyone else's. And on that note, we will adjourn in their memory. And we wish you all happy holidays, happy New Year, and we'll look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you for joining us.
Stay safe, be healthy.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Merry